What's going on, gamers and collectors? DGC back with another video, and today we're talking about my PlayStation VR collection, tips, tricks, guide, whatever you want to call it. Really going in depth on some PlayStation VR here. Had it for over a year now. I have quite a few games going for the full physical set, so let's see what we got. Alright, so before we jump into all that, wanted to briefly talk about the different models that are available, the different controllers, and the different various things you can use to play different games. So right off the get-go, there are two different PlayStation VR headsets. You've got the PlayStation VR, and then you got PlayStation VR 2.0 as it's referred to as the community. Which version do you want to get? Well, the differences are very minute. PlayStation VR 1.0, still a great system. However, the box, the way you'll be able to tell is the box, the breakaway box that links your VR headset to your PlayStation 4, kind of looks like the original PlayStation, where it's got the slant in the front and the slant in the back if you're looking at it sideways. And the VR 2.0 allows HDR pass-through, and then it's just a physical square black box. Like, it's just a straight up square. There's no slants in it. So that's the easiest way you'll be able to tell between the 1.0 and the 2.0. I don't know if the headsets are cross-compatible, so make sure you figure that out before you buy one. Not really too sure. As far as physical differences on the headsets, the 2.0, which is what I have, comes with a nice headset that plugs in, you know, the headphone jack, and then it links around your ear. And then it's just got like a tiny little 2-inch cord that goes to your ear. They're little earbuds, and then it has like a nice little spot that you can tuck it away into the headset for storing it. And then other than that, then it's got buttons here, right about here on your face. You got the volume and the mute the mic button, which there is a mic built into the headset, which is really nice for a specific game that we're definitely going to talk about because it's the best PlayStation VR experience you can have. Now, the other key difference is there are two PlayStation Move controllers at this point in time. This one is actually from my PlayStation 3. Yes, I actually enjoyed the PlayStation Move. A video on that here in the future. So the way you can tell the difference is the USB ports are different. So we'll go ahead and try to get a close-up of that. So this comes with the standard PlayStation 4 USB port, and this comes with the standard PlayStation 3 port. So it could be kind of annoying to have to plug this into your PS3 or change out the USB ports or yada yada yada. So you're going to want to try to get these just to keep it all streamlined and standard with the same USB port. Now the easiest way to tell these just at a glance is this button is white and this button is black. On the actual Move button is what they call that. So that's the easiest way to tell. This one's kind of a see-through plastic, whereas this one's just a straight up dark plastic with the Move thing, the Move logo in black. So that's the easiest way to tell that. Alright, so as I said, I got the Skyrim bundle in 2017 on Black Friday, so it's been a little over a year. And in that time I've amassed about 40 games. So kind of a lot. So what did that bundle come with? Obviously, it came with Skyrim VR. To date, I've only put about 4 hours into this. I don't know why. I think it's because I've already beaten Skyrim once on PC, once on 360, once on PS3. I do want to play it again in VR. This is an absolutely breathtaking experience in VR. If you're huge into RPGs and you've already beat this like me a million times, it's still worth buying. It really is. Such a great game. There's multiple different ways you can play it. You can play it where you teleport, which is a very common thing in VR games and first-person VR games. You'll teleport essentially, or you'll hop. And then you can also play it with a normal DualShock 4. Then you can play it with where you hold one of the move buttons and you run forward, and then you can still melee and shield with your other move controller, which is it's a really fun experience. So in that sense, it makes it really fun. Does this have all the DLC? I believe it does. It does, yes. So it has Dawnguard and Hearthfire and Dragonborn. Dragonborn being the better one out of that. Well, I guess Dawnguard's good too, but Hearthfire was the house building thing. But yes, the graphics are essentially in between the remastered edition and the old versions, so they're not like super crispy, but they're pretty good. They're good enough. You're not going to get motion sickness from this, and we'll talk about it briefly here in a minute. So that came with that. And then it also came with the Demo Disc 2.0. Demo Disc 1.0 can be bought in stores, same with this one. I think they're about 10 to 20 bucks, give or take. Definitely worth picking up because you'll get a nice variety of experiences that you can try and see what kind of games you do like, what kinds you don't, what kinds might make you sick. It's just, this is the time, and like, it's weird, demo disc in 2017 and 18, but yeah, like, it's just, they're definitely worth picking up and trying, because this one alone, let me see what it has here. Battlezone, which is a cool tank game. Dino Frontier, I haven't tried that yet. E-Valkyrie, Fantastic Corporation, Job Simulator, Moss, Res Infinite, Star Child, The Precedence, Thumper, Tiny Tracks, Raw Data, and Starblood Arena. So we'll talk about most of those games because I have most of them. So there's that. Definitely recommend picking both those up. I actually don't have Disc 1.0. I have never really been able to find it. I don't think it's rare. I've just never found it. Then we got the PlayStation VR Worlds. This came with the original bundle when it launched. However, they quickly took it out to lower the price. This can again be bought I see this all the time at Best Buys and GameStop, so it's not hard to find this whatsoever. This one I definitely recommend. So this one I specifically remember playing first. I think my first VR experience, and this is how I recommend it. I didn't even play Skyrim first. What I did first was, if you remember the launch window of this, and whenever they were showing everything, the ocean descent where you get into a shark cage and you descend down, really surreal to play that. It's truly breathtaking to play that. Like, it doesn't look like a super real photorealistic shark because the limits of the system are there, but it's really cool because, like, I've never done something like that in real life. I'd kind of like to try it, but I've never done that, so that's the closest I've ever done it. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's like you're scuba diving essentially in a cage. And then you got the VR luge. So I used to actually do that when I was younger. I would just ride on my skateboard. Me and my buddies made a ghetto skateboard with a plank of wood and then another piece of wood, and then we would ride down the hill. Super fun though. So this like brought back some like childhood memories to play that. So really cool. I believe there's 2 levels, or it might just be 1, I can't remember. But the one level I remember, there's like a lot of cars and shit, and you have to duck and dodge, and then there's like, you know, those concrete pipes that you have to like zoom through, and super fun experience. Like, this is definitely, you want to play this first, then play the demo disc, then play whatever games that you get with your VR. Then you got the Danger Ball, which is kind of like virtual pinball, or not pinball, dodgeball, not dodgeball. And then you got Danger Ball, which is essentially virtual ping pong, but like in VR, so you actually smack it with your head, which is kind of weird but kind of cool. That's like not on the top of my priority list for like recommendations to play, but if you want to try it, if that sounds cool to you, definitely try it. Then you've got the Scavenger Odyssey, which was really cool. So you basically play in this mech, and then you hop around, and then like there's points where you'll flip upside down, and then you're still shooting, and then you'll be sideways, and then this ways, and it's just, it's an incredible experience. It really is. Now the best one, I always save the best one for the last, the London Heist. Really cool. So you start out in this bar with this old-timey guy, and you're like, you see your hands, and you've got a lighter and a cigar, and you can like light it, and then you can like put it up to your face, and there's like a little ashtray that you can ash in, and then I was just messing around and throwing shit everywhere, and then you get interrupted, and then you go on this London heist. So you break into this one area, and you're sitting there behind the desk, and you're hiding, and you're peeking, and there's people coming by with flashlights and shit, and it's just a really fun experience. Like, this is totally fun and totally worth playing. It really is. Alright, so we're going to jump into, I guess this stack here that I got first is, yeah, so this is most of the launch titles here that came out physically, so we'll go ahead and jump into Eagle Flight. So you would think that this would be kind of lame, but it's actually kind of cool. Made by Ubisoft. You essentially play an eagle and you fly around, and essentially, you know those Grand Theft Auto missions where you fly through the circles and like the helicopters and stuff, like old Grand Theft Auto. You essentially just fly around as an eagle and do, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of cool. Typically you can find this for like 10 to 15 bucks, and then online it's like 10 to 15 bucks. Werewolves Within, I actually have not tried this yet. However, I'm going for the full set. I'll play it eventually. This was a launch title, I believe, or very close to it. It's some kind of weird, I don't know, like the pictures on the back here look like it's like storytelling or something, and maybe it's some kind of weird game, like a, you know, like a drinking game, but like in a VR kind of thing, like probably without drinking, but you get what I'm saying. Then we got Loading Human Chapter 1. I don't believe I've played this yet either, so what's weird is this is Chapter 1, like clearly states it on there. However, they haven't made a sequel to this yet, so I don't know if it really sold terribly or if they're just really taking their time to work on a sequel to it, but definitely Could be good. I do need to go in and try this. It's some kind of space adventure. I haven't tried it yet, unfortunately. Alright, now here's Valkyrie. So this was one of the more premier titles at launch. So this is like a space fighting game, essentially. Cool-ass game, though. Cool-ass game. Definitely good-looking. Probably one of the better-looking games at launch was this one. Then we got Until Dawn, Rush of Blood. So again, this was kind of like a title that people were pretty hyped to play. This was more or less kind of a tech demo game because you basically ride a roller coaster and you just... It's a gallery shooter on... It's an on-rails roller coaster gallery shooter. Really cool. This was actually free on PlayStation Plus before I bought the physical copy. Really cool. For a while there, Sony was actually putting out VR game month after month on the PlayStation VR or the PlayStation Plus when I first got it, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll take these free games. Now, this was the initial multiplayer type game for the PlayStation VR, and this is Riggs. So this is essentially, imagine Rocket League, but like with a mech, and there's guns, and you have to just like score goals and stuff. It's, oh, I think my disc is loose in here. Sure is. But yeah, so it's kind of like a sports arena combat game. Well, I mean, it's literally called Mechanized Combat League, but cool game here, though. Again, all these launch titles you can get super cheap, except for these last two right here. These are already pretty damn expensive, and one of these is pretty much one of the more rare PlayStation 4 physical releases that came out in actual brick-and-mortar stores, that being Job Simulator. This is frankly stupid rare at this point. Like, you're probably not going to find this anywhere except for eBay. Luckily, I did buy mine for 75 bucks, which is kind of pricey. It's a cool game. It's got a lot of humor to it. It's very fun. There's like you're simulating jobs. So there's one where you're sitting in a cubicle. There's one where you're in like a kitchen at the job, and there's just lots of different scenarios. And it's a really fun game. However, I wouldn't pay that much money for it. You can buy it digitally. Definitely play it, though. I do recommend playing it. It's very fun. The controls are pretty bad. They just don't work good on, whether it's the Move controllers themselves or the game just wasn't designed well, but they just don't work very well. But I do recommend playing it if you can get it for like 20 or less, which is what it goes for on the PlayStation Network. Now, this title was the one that actually really had me hooked on the whole VR thing in general from the first time I saw it. This is from one of my favorite developers, that being Crytek. This is Robinson: The Journey. Really wild game. The first time I saw it, you see the little orb come out in the initial launch trailer, and then you see like dinosaurs walking by, and I was like, okay, I like robots and I love dinosaurs. What's going on with this game? And then I saw the Crytek logo. It was okay, you got me hooked. So really cool game. It's an adventure game. It's like a puzzle game. You kind of go around and you like build stuff and like bring stuff back to your base, and you have like a little dinosaur pet. It's really wild. It's really fun. This one is definitely rare. Not as rare, but definitely pretty rare. It goes for $50 at GameStop, so I'll say that. And GameStop's usually pretty fair about their used prices. So definitely, unfortunately, a rare title. But again, and even on the PlayStation Network, this is still 50 bucks, but it's a really good experience. I definitely recommend it. But I mean, if you're going to get it for 50 on the network, you may as well try to track down a loose copy or a, you know, a used copy for about 50 bucks. A new one's going to run you for a lot more than that. Now, let's see this stack. Alright, so this is just like kind of a stack of random nonsense. This, I believe, was a launch title digitally, and then it physically got a copy on iam8bit.com, and that is Res Infinite. So this was a Dreamcast game, then it got to a PlayStation 2 game in Japan only, and then we got it on the PS4. So this has a VR mode. In case you're just watching this and you somehow want to get this, this is just a mode. You can play this totally in full HD in non-VR, or you can play it in VR. This game is insane in VR. This game was meant to be played in VR. Like, it was literally designed, like, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of weird story about some LSD nonsense and drugs and stuff, but this game is totally amazing in VR. Such a great experience in VR. It's so basic looking, but like so if you're afraid of like getting motion sick and this and that, like, this might be a good title for you to jump into because it's just so basic. Like, there's just empty void, and there is a lot of killers and a lot of explosions and this and that, but Really cool game. Definitely recommend it. They still have new copies of this on IM8-bit. However, it is a limited print. They have not stated how many they printed, though. However, I know it's a limited print. I'm guessing about 10,000, and it's already been on sale for about a year, 2 years. So if you're interested in getting this, I definitely recommend getting this soon. Alright. Now, this one, I must admit, I have not played yet. I haven't gotten around to it, and that is Radical G. This is basically an F-Zero type of game. This one, again, I recently bought. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. This is Creed Rise to Glory. So this is based off the movie. It's a boxing game. Imagine Punch-Out in VR, or Fight Night in VR. That's what this is. I've watched a lot of people playing it on YouTube, and I definitely want to give this a shot. And apparently this is like one of the best boxing games that has ever graced gaming, so I cannot wait to jump in on this. And it's cool too because the graphics are like realistic, but they kind of like almost like totally look like they ripped off Punch-Out a little bit, and it somehow probably ties in with the movie. I've never seen the movie and don't really plan to. Alright, now this one I picked up. So this is kind of like a point-and-click adventure, I believe. This is the Invisible Hour. Have not, again, played this yet because with VR games, yeah, so point-and-click adventure. But so with VR games, it's kind of weird. Like I'll jump into one and I'll play it hardcore for a week, and then I'll beat it, and then I'll stop, and then I won't play anything for like a week or two, maybe even 3 weeks, because I'm just like, let me go over this last game, then we'll jump back into that. Well, not the last game, but the last game in this stack. We still got 3 more stacks here, guys. So this one is already, I'm speculating that this one will be rare. This has a PlayStation VR mode in it. This is a PlayStation 2 game, and I think the first, no, I guess both of them were PlayStation 2. This is Zone of the Ender, Second Runner, Mars. So this has a VR mode in it. This is only the second game. The first game did not come to VR. I don't really know why they chose to do that. However, they got that holographic cover. You know, I love that. Really great game. Really amazing in VR. Really hope they give us the first one as well. Again, probably not going to happen because I don't know why they released the second one. Much like Borderlands 2, got a VR release recently, only digitally, $50. Kind of steep for an old-ass game like that, in my opinion. Haven't bought it yet. But again, why is it the second game? Why isn't it the first one, and then the second, and then, the pre-sequel? I don't know. It's very weird that it's like the second games that are coming out, but cool game nonetheless. So with the VR, I'll typically kind of play something, and then I'll beat it, and then I'll stop for a little while, and I've never gotten motion sick. I've gotten very close to it a few times. You kind of have to build up your tolerance to the motion sickness, and the way I did it, and this, I feel like this is the best way to do it, you really need to go into the settings of the PlayStation itself. It's very deep in the settings. There are many videos you can find on YouTube to figure this out, and they're very simple to do. So you have to set it up to where your eyes are like perfect, where like where your eyes would be, and then like height-wise, like even when you have the headset on, you can still adjust where it focuses in the headset, and that's really going to help with the the eye strain and what's going to make you motion sick. Now, what I do is I essentially, for certain games I will stand up, and then some games I sit down. For the ones that I do stand up and play, which sometimes it kind of immerses you more to stand up. So what I do is I back my knees up to my couch, just in case if I am feeling a little motion sickness, I can just plop my fat ass down and not be motion sick anymore, because I'm just like, all right, I'm grounded again. But yeah, those are kind of like my tips. Definitely check out those the eye leveling, and you really have to kind of figure out where you want the headset on your head, and then how tight you want to turn the little knob in the back, and then there's like a button here that elastic kind of thing, and there's a lot to it that you really kind of have to figure out, and you really have to set it up for your personal play. And then you almost don't even want to let other people play with your VR headset, and I almost even want to recommend getting a new one in general, because like you got to think about it, like I've sweat in my headset. You can't help that. You're gonna sweat in it, and I recommend again cleaning your headset pretty much every time you get done using it with like some baby wipes or some some kind of wipe that doesn't have like a lot of bleach in it, maybe some ammonia kind of thing, but just to not wear away at the cushiony stuff. But definitely clean it. Definitely clean out the little earbud guys. Don't get just don't let your headset be gross, because it's just gonna wear down and all that good stuff. So maybe it's just because I'm OCD, but like I clean mine all the time. I clean the lenses. I have the VR headset will come with a little, a little tiny microfiber about yay big, and I've never used that for anything else. It stays in my little carrying case, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about, and then we'll jump back into some games here, guys. Definitely, when you buy your headset, buy a carrying case for it. Why do I say that? Because you don't want all the dust building up and then dust getting on the lenses and scratching the lenses, and you just don't want that to happen. You want to keep it nice and protected. You want to keep it from dropping and cracking the screen or getting scratches on it, and you just really want to keep it protected. The headset I have now, which is just the standard licensed by official headset, I would grab it, but it's kind of all hooked up, and then my VR headset's in it with the wire running, so that's why you're not seeing that. Should have thought ahead. But the headset I have was the $40 standard headset. It's got a handle here and it's black. It was designed for the PlayStation VR 1.0 model. However, with the 2.0 model, you can fit it in, but you have to fold the headphones into the top of the headset and then bundle the wire into the top, and then it will fit. A lot of the PlayStation VR accessories are still only designed for the 1.0 model, not the 2.0 model. However, you're kind of going to be at buyer discretion whether you buy things, because they may or may not work with the 2.0 model, which is all that's being sold new now. But again, definitely check out the settings and get that all calculated right to your face and all that good stuff, and then definitely get the carrying case. Bar none, if you want to get the headset and you can't even afford a game, get the carrying case. And don't use the box. Like, the box is a terrible I've seen a lot of people do that. Like, they use the box. Like, I mean, if you're a collector, you're going to end up ruining the box by opening it a gazillion times and that good stuff. But definitely carrying case, check out the settings. Let's jump back into some games here. Now we got the other awesome accessory. This is the PlayStation Aim controller. Fantastic piece of kit right here. This is badass. It's perfect. Unlike the original Move one, which was kind of finicky and didn't work well, this one works pretty well. It's very sleek in design. It fits like perfectly in your hand, and it's just really spot on. Nice quality, nice. That sounds like shit, but it's actually like nice plastic. I've dropped it quite a few times, and it's just a really sturdy piece of engineering here. Really good too, and just very ergonomic and very comfy, and like you can, get down like that, and it's just super fun. So, what games does that work well with here? We got 4 titles here. The one that mine came bundled with was Farpoint. So this is a really, I would say this is probably the best looking PlayStation VR game that I've experienced so far. The graphics in this game, or the visuals rather, are just beautiful. So you start off, I want to say that you go to Mars, you're in space, and you kind of get sucked into a black hole. And maybe it might not even be Mars. It's been a while since I played this, about a year ago almost. And you get sucked down to this planet. You play as this female, and then there's also, so there's a black guy and then a white woman, and then you're kind of stranded, and they're like longtime friends. They were trapped in space together and this and that, and I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if you go out as the woman or the man, or if you go out as both. I think one goes out and then the second one goes out to find the other one, but then there's like weird, like episodic, like not dreams, but like sequences where you're like flashbacks. Really great game though. The story is, it's okay. It's like a 6 out of 10, the story-wise. The gameplay, though, is really nice. You really need to dial in the controls and get it the way you want, but once you finally figure out the way you like it, because that's kind of a big thing with VR games, you really got to figure out the way you like the controls, then stick with that style for your games. So with this one, I did try the teleporting thing. I'm not a fan of the teleporting thing. You might like that, but I don't. I just like using the analog stick and just walking around like a normal game. And then also in a lot of VR games, there's like a snap feature where you'll snap the camera and then it'll kind of stop. I don't really like that. I just like the free motion, like a normal game where you're just like shh, shh. So that's how I like to play VR games. But there, again, like I said, it's up for you to decide with most of these VR games. It's very nice that the designers have gone to these lengths to include that stuff. But Farpoint, so you can get this bundle. This was initially 80 bucks when I bought it. You could probably get it way cheaper now. Really fantastic game here, really great. Now, the initial titles that made me want to get the PlayStation VR were Skyrim, Farpoint, and Doom VFR. Doom VFR is really great, really good looking, but I still would say Farpoint to me is the best looking PlayStation VR game that I've played. Doom looks really good, it plays really well. Again, you really need to dial in the controls on this game to get them the way you like to enjoy the game. Really fun though, really pretty good looking if you're into Doom. So if you played Doom 2016, If you recall, at the beginning of the game, there's like a dead dude on a dead Marine on the elevator. You play as like his ghost basically in this one, so it's like sort of linked to the normal game, which is kind of cool. Very good game. You go to a lot of the same locales in the game. It's relatively short, but it's definitely worth a play, because I think you can get this for like $20. Farpoint like standard is $20, and again with this one you can play with both these games. You can play with PS4 or 2 aim controllers or the actual aim gun. And then this next one, this is actually, you know what, this was the fourth game that made me really want to get the PlayStation VR here. And then other than that, this was pretty much it. But I've enjoyed all the other experiences. Bravo Team. So this is essentially Time Crisis in VR, so really cool. However, it's not as good. This is made by, what studio makes this? Oh, Supermassive Games. So they did Until Dawn, they did Until Dawn Rush of Blood, then they did Bravo Team, and then they did The Impatient. So they're kind of almost PlayStation's VR team at this point, and they do a good job making VR games, but this one is definitely worth playing, but I would probably recommend getting this one used, because it's the controls, they didn't dial in the controls very well. It's okay, and unfortunately this was a game that you could play co-op online. However, no one really plays it online, so I've never been able to play it online, which I would really like to. I feel like that would be it'd be kind of almost like those old school arcade vibes of playing, you know, a gun con game in the arcade, but like you could still do it online and talk to people. But it is definitely worth playing if you're into like light gun games. And I kind of hope in the future that PlayStation VR will be the revival of light gun games, because light gun games are some of my favorite. I just love light gun games. Like when I go to the arcades as a kid, like I would immediately run to the light gun games because those were my favorite games. But Bravo Team, really good game here, really good game. Alright, so this one. This is a reason alone to own a PlayStation VR. This got announced, I don't remember when, probably 6 to 8 months ago maybe, or maybe a little longer ago, but when it came out, this was popping. And this game still has good, strong online community, so if this is something that sounds intriguing to you, definitely buy this. There's a lot of people that still play it. I still play it, so if you want to get on there, hit a brother up, we'll play. This is Firewall 0 Hour. Really epic game here. This game is legit as fuck. Such a cool game. So it's essentially 4-on-4 squad-based, old school Rainbow Six game right here is what this is in VR. The weapon selection is not great. There's machine guns, shotguns, pistols, trip mines, remote mines, detonators. There's all sorts of different nonsense that you can do in the game. However, all of the unlocks take fucking forever to unlock. That is one criticism I have of the game. The only criticism. The controls are spot on. The aiming is perfect. No motion sickness. Everybody has to have a headset on because it's built into the fucking headset. So like everyone has a mic on because it's built into their headset. So they're at least listening to you at the very least. Whether they respond is another thing. But this is the kind of game you have to play as a team. You are a legit squad when you're playing this game. It is nuts. I've had some epic battles on this game and just like really just hunkering down with my team, and we're just like, all right, yo, you go left, I'm going right, you pop a grenade over, and then it's just like you just like squad up in this. You're just like your homie's running left, you're running right, you got a dude in the back lobbing a grenade. Such a blast to play this game. I cannot recommend this enough. This alone is worth getting a PlayStation VR. Just an absolutely epic experience. I really wanted to record gameplay for all these games like I typically do for my collection videos, but with these being VR games, it would just take so long for me to do that, in case you're wondering why I didn't do that. And all the footage that I ever do in any of my videos, I record myself. I don't steal that stuff because I want to have the footage be the way I want it to be. But just such an epic experience. Those 4 games, if you're really into like light gun games, will give you that old school nostalgic itch of light guns. Now, what do we got here? Okay, so these are 3 games that absolutely floored me when I played them. Firewall, and then these next 3 are pretty much just must-have games for the PlayStation VR. This one can be played in non-VR and in VR. The VR was an update to this game, that being the Wipeout Omega Collection. Fantastic game. good on its own in a standalone without the VR, but when you put that VR on, ooh, baby, that shit is legit as fuck. You get in there, you're in the cockpit, and you're... But yeah, sorry, the camera cut off there, guys. But when you get into the cockpit and you sit down and the thing pops down and it's just counting green, green, red, or red, red, green, and you're just sideways in the thing, and it's just so good. And you can actually control the ship with your head, or you can use a DualShock, and it's just a really wild experience, and it's so good. What I will say is this is the non-VR edition on the box. I was debating on buying the VR version just to see if it had the VR on the disc. It does not, because this one has 24 gigs that you have to install. The other one has 24 gigs you have to install. So it's not actually on the disc on either of them. It's an update regardless, so just buy this used if you want to get it. Don't bother getting the actual VR version. Fantastic game. Now the next two. This was my VR Game of the Year, and it conveniently did win VR Game of the Year. Astrobot Rescue Mission. If you like platformers, this is for you. There are 5 worlds. Each world has 6 levels and then a boss, so kind of 7 levels. So it's kind of short, but each level sometimes can take upwards of 10 minutes, and for a platformer level, I mean, that's kind of long. Like a typical Mario level only lasts about 3 or 4 minutes. So I mean, they're pretty long, they're pretty in-depth, and I talked about this in the pickups video. You know, you're looking around here, there's a little dude you got to rescue up there, there's a coin over here, there's coins there, some water missions, some you'll go underwater, and then you're like, you actually are like swimming and shit, and then there's some where you're like in the sky, and there's like beautiful puffy clouds, and just an absolutely amazing experience with this game. Just absolutely great. Now another game that blew me away. Visually, this one looks pretty good too. This is Moss, the Game of the Year edition. I don't know why they did all this nonsense on the cover. It kind of ruins the cover, but it is what it is. Really great game. Really great. Fantastic, actually. It's a cool action platformer. So there's a little bit of, you know, hack and slash stuff, but then a lot of platforming. You essentially play as this little mouse dude, and it's either his uncle or his grandpa, I can't remember at this point, gets kidnapped, and all this nonsense happens, and there's like a biblical prophecy that plays out, and you're fighting like frogs and toads and shit. You know, it's kind of it's a fairy tale story, but it's a really cool game, and the visuals on it are just like it really just brings you back to like this. It brings me back to this like childhood memory of just like fantasizing about, like, you know, reading those little childish stories and stuff, and it just really kind of puts you in that mood, and it's just really, that's the vibe they were going for, and it really just puts you into that mood of like this fairy tale vibe, and it's a really fantastic experience. It really is. Now, big shout out to Tylord Stevenson. This is going to be the section you're going to like. This is the 4 horror games that I have currently for the PlayStation VR. Now, backstory on that, I absolutely hate watching scary TV shit or scary movies, but when it comes to games, oddly enough, I'm totally fine with it. So this is by Supermassive. This is The Impatient. So you're in like an insane asylum, and I haven't really gotten too far into this yet, but at some point I will delve further into this one. But apparently it's a decent game for what you get. It's like a $20 game. That's the great thing about PlayStation VR. The games are stupid cheap, which is really cool. Then you've got, of course, this was a launch title. The VR mode for this is exclusive to the PlayStation VR, that being Resident Evil. This is the Gold Edition, so this comes with some of the DLC. There's still a download voucher in here for some of it. However, the initial DLC is actually on the disc here, so it's kind of good. This isn't a VR-only title. This is a VR mode game, which I guess is something I should mention. On some VR games, you'll have VR mode included, and then you'll have ones that just say PlayStation VR. And then down here in this corner, you'll always have it where it'll say, obviously you're always going to need the headset if it's a VR game. It will always show the camera, because you need the camera, which comes with the VR headsets. And then sometimes it'll show the 2 Move controllers, or it'll show the aim gun. And then if you really want to get in depth with it, it'll show you different controls on the back, you know, in the little typical area. But Resident Evil, again, this one actually scared the fuck out of me. The visuals definitely take a very hard hit when they jump into VR, because this is a good looking game in non-VR, but once you jump into VR, they take a pretty hard hit. The anti-aliasing is not good. Like when you first get into the house, you can like see the jaggies on the steps in the house, and definitely doesn't look as good, but it's still scary as fuck. And the atmosphericness of it, where you just hear things dropping on the floor, and you hear people walking, and you hear bugs and roaches or whatever it is that you're hearing, and crazy experience. I almost hate to recommend it, but like, you gotta play this in the dark. You gotta at nighttime. Like, you really just need to set yourself up to be scared shitless, and you'll really enjoy this one. It's pretty fun. All right, now here's one. This is Persistence. This is a space game where there's like demons and monsters and that kind of stuff. Haven't delved into this too much. I've played all these for at least a few minutes, but I've never delved into a lot of them. Like I said, I only jump into each VR title here and there. I do want to try this one. Graphically, this looks pretty good, but it's sort of like a horror game, and there's a lot of demons and monsters and stuff. Now the last one here, I don't know if I'll ever try this one, because this one definitely probably would freak me out. This is Paranormal Activity: The Lost Soul. So in America, this is a Best Buy exclusive. It is not rare, but at some point it very well could be, and the only place you can get this is Best Buy, which is very weird. That doesn't happen very often. This is like 15 bucks new at Best Buy, so if you got Gamers Club, you're talking like $9 for this, which I think is what I paid for it. I don't know much about this, because I don't know if I could stomach this one. This one, I mean, this is legit probably pretty scary, so I don't know if I can stomach that one. Alright, so much like any system, there are definitely bound to be some super rare games for it, which is unfortunate. These 3 titles are definitely going to be pretty hard to come by. These were limited to like 1,000 to 3,000 copies. They're of course from limited run games. It kind of sucks that we've come to that, to where these games are stupid rare and people can't like physically own them, but being that I'm going for the full set, I of course did buy them. This is Volume. So this is a cool puzzle game. This is a VR mode game. It's not fully VR, but it has a VR mode in it. So cool game. I don't even know how to describe it. You'll have to just look up some gameplay, because I'm not putting any in here. But you'll just have to look it up. It's a pretty cool game, and it can be played non-VR in case you look it up and like the idea of it. Then we got Thumper here. This is VR mode included. So this is kind of like a rhythm game, where this is included on one of the demo discs, I believe. This is a very early title that came out for the PlayStation VR. This is also VR mode included. It's available on like all the systems, I believe, but you know, being a VR included game, I needed it for the set. Now, one that kind of surprised me how fun it was, this is Pixel Gear. So this is a straight up VR game. This is a gallery shooter, so it has a very shitty looking graphical design. I don't know if they did that on purpose to mask that the PlayStation VR is not that powerful, or if it was the graphical choice that they decided to go with because of budget or whatever, but the game doesn't look very good, but it is super fun to play. So essentially you have both your your aim or your move controllers, and you're sitting around there popping guys, and it almost plays like this one game that I can't remember off the top of my head. Fuck, what was that game called? I don't remember. It was like an Orcs Unleashed game on the Steam, and you would just have hordes of guys coming. So essentially this is like a gallery horde game with terrible graphics, but it's really fun. You can like level up your stuff at the end of each level, and it's just a really great experience. Everything here can obviously be bought digitally. PlayStation VR games on PSN go on sale all the time. All the time. Pretty much every week there's something on sale. Something worthwhile on sale. A lot of the PlayStation VR games are just digital, which kind of sucks. But it's kind of good from a collecting standpoint, because I'm already like 80% done collecting for the full physical set. So with that being said, I think North America has about 50 titles physically. I plan to go for them all. Some of them might be kind of more difficult than others. I mean, there's even rarer shit that I don't have. Leave a comment down below if you know of any other rare stuff that I don't have. Or if you happen to live in Europe, where there's a lot of stuff that they get physically released that we don't. And then as well, like Job Simulator was only released physically here and not in the rest of the world. So there's a lot of weirdness like that, where things are released here and not here, and all that kind of good stuff. But collecting for the PlayStation VR has kind of been a thrill, because it's almost like playing a new console for the first time, and almost like me playing games for the first time again. It's been very surreal, because it's like I've already played Super Nintendo thousands of hours, N64, GameCube, PS2, Xbox 360, PS3, PS4, Genesis, everything. I've already played all those for like thousands of hours, and while they're still fun to me, it was never anything new. Like, once you've played one FPS, you've played it. Once you've done one platformer, you've done it. They might visually look different, they might sound different, the packaging might be different, but like, you've already done all that. Like, PlayStation VR is such a breath of fresh air. I cannot recommend it enough. It's just such a great experience to play PlayStation VR. If you're getting like fatigued on gaming, get yourself PlayStation VR. They're so cheap at this point. It is the cheapest entry point into VR, aside from like the Samsung Gear VR, which is just stupid phone games in VR. Like, nah, get that out of here. But the cheapest entry point into VR is with the PlayStation VR, and that's not really a bad thing. So the way I look at it, you have the Rift and the Vive, and I think there might be a third one. There's like one weird one where it's like super rectangular and it sticks out to here and it's like 8K, which it's probably like $2,000. Like who the fuck's gonna buy that? So PlayStation VR, you can get it for like $200 for the non-move controller bundle, and then you can get it for like $250, and then there's one with $350, and there's lots of different bundles and tiers you can enter in at. But with the PlayStation VR, the reason I think it's the best is because, you know, let me just pull some random nonsense out of here, like this is made by Sony, this is made by Sony, this is made by Sony, this is made by Sony. Sony has the money to buy games out like this for exclusivity. Did they make Farpoint? Yeah, Farpoint was made by Sony. I'm pretty sure Res might be console exclusive, but I'm not sure on that one. You know, and then let's see. I don't know, Rush of Blood, like that's an exclusive because Sony owns Until Dawn. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of great, like even just like the VR worlds, like with the London Heist, and those are all experiences given to you by Sony Studios, that you're not going to get on another platform. And the reason I say that is like Rift is owned by Oculus, which is Facebook, so like they don't own any game studios, so you're never really gonna. You might get some bought out exclusives, but you're not getting any exclusives from AAA Sony owned studios like you will with the PlayStation VR. And the Vive, it's HTC, which is a phone company, so they don't own any game studios. So again, they might buy some games out that have exclusivity on, but you're never going to get that. I don't know, God of War in the future might get a fucking VR demo. I mean, The Last Guardian's getting a VR experience. I mean, that's cool as shit. Like, you're just going to get so much more experiences with the PlayStation than you will with any of the other ones. So yes, it doesn't look as good, but it's only a smidgen worse. Like, if you look at the pixel count, it's like 200 pixels less per eye. Like, I mean, that seems like a lot, but it's really not that much. Like, all the VR headsets are pretty equal. I've used all three of them. Now, as far as, I think there's like a Pro for the Oculus and the Vive. I don't know. I've never tried those. I've tried the originals, but as far as VR goes, I think the PlayStation VR is the perfect entry point. Like, you can get yourself a nice little setup for about $400, which seems like a lot, but you're going to have a lot of games with that. You can get that. I mean, I don't recommend getting a used headset, but you definitely can. Get that for like, I think it's like 180 at GameStop. Get yourself a couple of games. So you're in at like 250, and you're already playing like 3-4 games, and you're enjoying some PlayStation VR. All the PlayStation exclusives are good. They all work well. They all handle well. They all, you know. And the thing is, with the PlayStation VR, they have like a strict limit of, I think it's 90 frames a second that your game cannot dip under, so that you basically, so you don't get motion sickness. The reason you may get motion sickness from PlayStation VR or just VR in general is because you have to build up a tolerance to it. You really do, and I was mentioning that earlier. So like with what was the game that I was experiencing that with a little bit? I think it was the Street Luging game, or Luge game that I was playing. Because you're really going fast, like you're zipping down this hill, and I did kind of start feeling a little queasy in the stomach, and I started getting real sweaty and stuff, and you know, I had to like sit down while I was doing it, and then just kind of take a break. And but it's a really awesome experience, and I really cannot recommend PlayStation VR enough. If you've got the time and the money to invest into it, or if you're just really fatigued with gaming, like, definitely try the PlayStation VR. I can't recommend it enough. Hopefully you learned a few things from this video. Hopefully you saw some cool games. Unfortunately, I'm not including gameplay because that would just be very ridiculous to record gameplay for all these different VR games. It would just take an insane amount of time. I had wanted to, and that's why I haven't done this video sooner, but I thought about it, and I was just like, let's just release the video of the collection and some tips and stuff. But if you enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to hit the like button. And as always, peace out for now, guys. Till next time.
Come here, you mother...